Hello. Today I have an author on HCI. That's how we met. But she's wonderful. She's a wonderful person, and she started Best Ever You Network. So welcome, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and this great book, the Change Guidebook. I'm telling you, this is a wonderful book. Some of my friends have bought it. I have read it, and it will help you if you're going through a transition. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me here. I appreciate it. That
Could
means a lot. That means so much to me that you love my book. So,
Oh, I do. And it's great for my clients because I'm a mental health counselor and
yeah.
you're a coach. You actually have certifications, but could you kind of just describe your work at Best Ever You Network? You can probably do it better than I could.
Yeah, well, we're professional and personal development providers all across the globe, really. Anybody who needs any kind of boost in positive, gratitude-based help. That's what I do for a living, and it's multimedia because I believe people digest information in different ways. So I make sure that it's a podcast, it's a book, it's an article, it's a magazine, it's videos, it's audios, it's whatever, however we can get the content out to people. So we're multimedia.
Well, I love it. And I've been honored to write for your magazine. I'm going to tell everyone out there, it's a beautiful magazine. It's not only uh, got great articles in it, it's well produced. It's really high quality. And that's what I appreciate. This the best ever. You look for the best. I always say there's good, better, and best. So we're going to help people find their best solution today. I'm a solution focused therapist, and you're a life coach. And I'm going to get right into how your book goes, the Change Guidebook, how to align your heart, truths, and energy to find success in all areas of your life. I want to read to people this I believe statement. And it says you wrote this, the
I
I
did.
believe. I
Yeah.
love this. I'm going to read you back your own words because I want you to say where this came from and the inspiration. I believe, now Elizabeth wrote this, everyone. I believe you must think with your heart, live and show up authentically, understand you go where you place your energy. When these things align, you can do anything. Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino. Tell us about that, the inspiration for that.
I think it comes from, well, of course it comes from my heart. But it really is a moment where I was just kind of thinking about my own journey and my own trajectory and the people that I've encountered in this process and so forth. And I think one of the things that is so important in all of this is to think, is to shift from this kind of thinking to heart-based thinking.
Yes.
Be authentically you. The world needs more of you, not fake you or altered
Right.
you or Instagrammed filtered you or any of that stuff. And
Yes.
then I believe that we need to take that action. If you sit around and wish for it, well, that's part of it, but you really need to work for it. And
Thank you.
yeah, I work so hard. I mean, I really do.
We always
Uh,
have pre-discussions, and Elizabeth and
yeah,
I were talking about that. We love vision collages. We love writing intentions. Now there's this whole new thing, which is not new at all, scripting your intentions.
sure.
All of those things matter. But if you want to do something, it's going to require vision, probably a few revisions,
Yeah.
and then action. And your book, I love it because it comes in three parts. It's align your heart, align your truths, and align your energy. And I love the part that says choose. Talk to
Mhm.
us about choosing, because writers write what they know. So you had to make some choices, and with all choices come consequences. And people think consequences are bad. No, it's just an effect. So there are good consequences and not so good consequences. So talk about your journey and how you make choices, and talk to someone out there who's making a choice right now.
Well, I think everything that we do kind of cultivates and creates our amazing the moments really. And I think what's really important to understand is that we're not entitled to time. None of us are entitled to time. And so if you think about that for a little bit and go, well, okay, what am I choosing? What am I doing in my everyday moments? What am I doing second to second, nanosecond to second? What
Yes.
am I doing? What am I choosing? And if you think about it like that, I think it has the potential to create incredible change. Even if you choose one small thing to do differently, it doesn't have to be some major pivot. It could be a slight pivot or a
Mhm.
slight turn, and just keep doing that and stay consistent and so forth. We've had,
Yes.
you can have dramatic results and take the action that you desire. A lot of people are like, well, why are they successful and I'm not? And I think it boils down to the actions you take and the choices that you make.
Yes.
and that consistency in those things. So
Yes.
I really think, backing up to what you said about vision and journaling and scripting and all these things, I think those are really important, because
Mhm.
what that does is it frames your mind.
Yes, your book is full of them. It's helpful.
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
that going, you create that mindset that you're looking for. Okay, so now what? The next step is, I've got this great mindset going. I know I'm all dialed in. I'm 100% in. But now what? Well, we've got to take some action to kind of go with that amazing mindset that you're creating and cultivating
Yes.
for yourself. And
Yes.
it boils down to the choices and actions that you take. I
Yes,
think
and
anyway.
sometimes, and I love that, and sometimes, and I talk with clients, like, I actually heard this from an attorney of all people, because they are legal counsel, but they also have to deal with a lot of emotions, especially family attorneys. I'm a
I'm
family
married
court
to an
mediator
attorney.
too. There you go. So
Yeah.
they really are legal counsel, but they also are dealing with emotional issues, especially with family law.
Yeah.
And I'm a family mediator as well. But when you don't know what to do, sometimes the best choice is to do nothing or just fold a load of laundry. Right? I mean, isn't that part of, like, make your bed every day? They do that in rehabs just to show people you've accomplished one thing when you first get out of bed, and it kind of snowballs. Can you describe choices and changes? Because people hear the word change and they just freak out.
Yeah.
There's a transition in the change. You don't have to just jump from A to B.
I was worried about the book, the Change Guidebook, if people would be like, "Ah, no," and I think what I hope that we can meet people with is that, meet them in that moment of need,
Yes.
of I've got to change something, I've got to show up differently, I've got to wake up differently, I've got to do something differently,
Mhm.
or if something has happened to you and you're adjusting to that or coping with that, this book works nicely for that too. But you asked, when you wake up in the morning, what can you do? I think one of the things I do, and talk about things that I've gone through. I've been resuscitated twice from food allergic reaction. So one of the things I
Wow.
do is I just take a deep breath in and out, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. What am I gonna do today? And I root very deeply in gratitude. And we hear a lot about gratitude. It's somewhat cliche in moments and things like that. But I think gratitude on autopilot, if you go all gratitude on it, I don't think you can go wrong. And no
No.
matter what is going on, I've been in some really interesting situations, some terribly sad situations, with my father being a stroke survivor. We've been in the we were in the ICU unit off and on from all of 2004 to 2018.
Mm.
And I can remember looking at my family and my mom, and things are miserable and so forth, and saying, okay, we're going to have a different moment here. We're going to find the faith, find the hope, find the gratitude, and flip the script a little bit, so that he survives and we're not all negative energy around him. um,
Yes.
and my
And that
mom
you
is
had a
very into
great
that too.
dad. You had a great
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the power of that positive energy and the power of gratitude and all of those things, is just so important. Sorry, my phone is ringing.
That's
That
okay.
happens sometimes when we do radio shows and things.
Hey, I love that. I
Okay,
love the
sorry.
organic nature of it. Hey,
Yeah,
my
I
dog's probably gonna
thought I
jump
had
up.
my
If people see this on YouTube, my dog will probably jump on that chair. That's okay. It makes
mortified,
us
but
human.
yeah.
And that journey that you took, I took a very similar journey with my father too. And I don't think people realize the power of anticipatory grief. It's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
A friend and I call it pre-traumatic stress disorder, which there's no such thing, but that's
It
what we
might be.
call
I
it.
don't know.
Yeah, it does. But in that grief, if you can find gratitude, and the best way, so tell me how you feel about this concept and then go with whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah.
I always tell people when they say, I don't believe in that gratitude stuff. And I say, okay, imagine you're late for work. You've gone out to your car. You have a flat tire. You're going to go, oh, negative energy immediately. Just can feel it in your body.
Well, day wrecked if you
Then,
let it. Yeah.
yeah. And then you stop and go, but thank goodness I'm not on the interstate going 80 miles an hour. It's in my front yard. I'm alive and I haven't spun out on the interstate. Do you see it? Just all of a sudden you become buoyant. So in your journey, how did you find the buoyant and resilient? Because if people don't have it naturally, they can be taught it. And that's what this book
Yeah.
is all about.
Yeah.
So
And I think I had
how
to
you
learn it
help
too.
people.
I think I definitely had to learn it too, because up to that point, I'll share a point with you in a minute, but up to a certain point, I was feeling very down on myself for having developed life-threatening food allergies, walking around with 4 life-threatening food allergies, and not seeing that, oh, okay, it's so bad. There's other thing, all the different ways to rationalize and adjust and cope and all those things. I just was not seeing it. And my father had a stroke in 2004. And he lived through the stroke and series of things that had happened to him. And we were in a rehab facility. And this is in my first book, which is a Hay House book called Percolate. And we were in a rehab facility. They did this speech therapy with him. And the nurse said to me and my mom, listen, with what's happened to him, people don't say much. Just be prepared. This is not usually a positive thing. It's kind of miserable. And yeah. So she said, when I say A, Jim, you tell me what word you associate with the letter A. And we were like, okay, we don't know how this is going to go. So she said A and he said aardvark. And we're like, oh my. And then, yeah, we're like, I don't know what that was. But then he said benevolence, courage, determination, excellence. F was a swear word, goodness, happiness, integrity, joy, on and on and on, love. M was movies because he loved movies. And he got to P and he said platypus. So in my book, I called it Aardvark and Platypus and Find Your Inner Aardvark and Platypus.
Wow.
Because this is a miserable situation. If you've ever
Yes.
seen a stroke rehab facility, it's
Yes.
really an
It's
iffy
rough.
situation.
Yeah.
It's really rough. And it was like he dug his heels in to live and get through it and tell us around him. It was like message to everyone, I'm living through this. And not only am I going to live through this, but I'm going to live a long life and thrive and survive. And he
Yeah.
lived all the way to 2018.
Wow.
Even then he was, in and out of ICU all of 2018,
Mhm.
duking it out. And so
Duking
it
it
was just,
out. That's
yeah,
beautifully
duking it
put.
out.
'Cause they
And
do duke it out.
yeah, they called
It's
him the ICU warrior for years.
yes.
And so from that versus a flat tire, the comparison, what I'm trying to say is, it's all in how you perceive it, and it's all in what your mindset is. Because like a flat tire can happen to me now, and I go, oh, okay, whatever,
After
kind of
you've been
thing.
through trauma,
After you've
doesn't it?
been,
Those kind of things are
yeah,
really, really small. It's like
yeah. So
they're so
careful.
small.
I think, and I don't know if I say this out loud enough. I'm like, but careful what you apply your frustration and anger and
Yes.
so forth to, because life will
Yeah.
really give you a doozy.
Yes.
Then you're going to be like, oh, so that perspective is so important.
Yes.
And I love what you said. Thank God, goodness, it didn't happen on the highway or whatever. Or one of your kids wasn't
Could have been
driving,
tragic.
happened, or
Yes.
yeah, so many different things. So, um, to create that pause within to kind of really evaluate things before we go reacting and applying whatever kind of energy it is, I think is just so important. But again, I don't know that if you're wired that way, bravo. But
Bravo. Not
most of us,
everyone.
I
Right.
think most of us have to learn these tools. And a lot of us don't learn them until we're later in life and we're kind of
No.
regrouping and doing all these things. I always think and I'm seeing it more and more. I always think it would be amazing if we had these tools in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the
Yes.
formative parts. And this new gen, like the kids my son's age, they're in their 20s.
Mhm.
They got a little bit of it, and a lot of it from me, from Best Ever
They
You,
do.
husband, and all this stuff. But they got it in school too, in their peer groups and stuff. So
Yes.
you hear mental health being talked
They're
about.
a little more authentic.
Hear,
Yes,
yeah,
finally it came around. My
hearing
generation
it,
brought it to them and we
yeah.
brought it to the world and they're picking it up again. It's that skipped generation.
Used to be like a
Wonderful.
stigma. I mean, I can
Yes.
remember after I had a couple kids, I had postpartum depression afterwards, and was trying to go back to work with postpartum depression and hiding it and feeling awful and trying to do my makeup when I didn't want to, and
Yes.
all of those things. And but there was such a stigma. You were afraid you were going to get fired, or
Hmm.
looked upon terribly. It
Yes.
was bad enough you were on maternity leave, let alone, having issues after having children. So, there's a lot we go through. So I kind of breathe deep and kind of go here and
Yes.
give yourself a giant hug and think from right here and be authentically you.
Yes. And sometimes I use what I call emotional math. This is to scare people into gratitude and in a good way. Fear,
Did you say
fear is there
math
to
or math?
math,
Math. Oh,
math.
you
And
did another word.
I'm terrible at math.
I
That's why I
am
call it
too.
emotional math. And fear is there to protect us. So I tell people if you live to be 100, and you and I have both coded, so we know what it's like to
To
have to
not
be
be here.
revived. Yes, and
Yeah.
it's not as painful as people might think, is that you just kind of slip through the veil.
Yeah.
But But what I learned from that is if you live to be 100, which this generation probably will, your son's generation, we get 36,500 days, and that's only 5,200 weekends. That's not a lot when you look at it that way, when you look at that perspective. And that's so in your book, you have things, and I love this, my favorite part of your book, because of what you call it, points to ponder. Because I've lived in the South most of my life and I wrote songs in Nashville. We use the word ponder a lot. So what brought up the points to ponder? Because this is helping people listen to themselves, which is what all great coaches and counselors do. So
Yeah.
how did you come up with that points to ponder so people could listen to themselves through your work?
It was sort of a play on ponder your navel. I won't lie.
Okay.
It's like, okay.
Okay.
But
That's
also,
mindfulness. It's a
yeah,
mindfulness.
yeah. But it's totally mindfulness. How I came up with that is I wanted to write a book that I would actually buy and use myself, or have things in the book that are from my own life that I've used and learned from and so forth. So it's sort of all of that is just sort of passed along from me to the book to you, the readers and so forth. And I really wanted to structure it so that you could actually put things in motion, take
Yes.
action. Because it's one thing to read a book and kind of put it down and be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, whatever." But it's another to pick it up and realize that, oh my gosh, this book, the entire book is a masterclass in change if I want it to be. I have the
Yes.
power here to add masterclass in change to my resume for, like, I think the book is $7. And
Yes.
it's seven dollars and
And
fifty
you
cents
have
on
a class
Amazon.
on how they can
Yeah,
help, how they
yeah,
can become certified as coaches themselves, because
I
those are
do.
the beautiful stories when somebody who gets counseled or coached. I'm one of those people. We have to all get therapy to become therapists
Yep.
and to see that change. So I also know writers, like we said earlier, write what they know. And you've probably been working on something new. I know once a book is finished, you take a very short break and you start another one. So are you working on something, that some change that's happened, that is you're working on something new?
I did, it was interesting. It's kind of based on, I feel like, I'm going to back up a little bit. I feel like people come to coaching and counseling a lot uh, to work on one of two things sometimes: change and success. People are like, well,
Yes.
how, and not success in terms of like, well, how much money's in my bank account? And am I going to be rich and famous? And not like that.
Right.
I just mean just like everyday success. And
Yes.
so what I work on and what I'm working on is helping people feel well-rounded. And I don't mean like pizza and, like that.
Oh no, we're both Italian. That's
Well,
like that's
I'm
a
definitely
dangerous word for
well-rounded.
us.
But what I mean more is the feeling of enough and enoughness and feeling successful and feeling like they can navigate well. And when you have tools like that in your best life toolbox, I think life becomes um, easier to navigate, perhaps. You
Yes,
understand it a little bit better and you aren't afraid because, fear blocks us and so forth. And I
does.
just think we spend a lot of time not feeling enough and not feeling good enough and not
Mhm.
feeling like, oh, we did that and it was great. Instead, we're like, oh, I don't know.
This is
And
this is
it's
what
a
I love
sweet
about your
feeling.
work. This is what I love about your work, Elizabeth, because you're not ignoring the fear. You're not ignoring or trying to suppress it. You're not trying to just think positive, because there is truly toxic positivity.
Yeah, it's just
Positive psychology is about processing negative information in a way that will help you instead of harm you. That's really the heart of it. And you get to the heart of that. So help the person who says, I don't even know where to begin. They have just come out of the the shock. There's fight, flight, and frozen, and frozen is numb. So they're
yeah.
just coming out. They want to come out of numbness into motion forward. How would you help them through this book, but also what you're working on now with that inner critic that said, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad, also good. It teaches us what not to do, but shame is I am bad. So
Yeah.
somebody with a shame or fear-based nature, help them come up out of that today.
Yeah. Again, it's all in what you choose in those moments of how to think. And and if you don't know how to think in a positive way, like a higher vibrational type of energy so that you can get more of that to you, you might have to do some work around that to start to incorporate a minor change of positivity into your life. Words
Yes.
like, I have value. I am
Mm.
worthy. Like little affirmations even because it's a retraining of your brain. Your brain, I think a lot of us are wired to think to to remember negative more than positive. If you
Mhm.
look at the
Well,
news,
it's for
even
safety. We're
yeah,
wired.
it's
Yeah.
negative all the time, and I'm like,
Right.
I can remember that and that and that, but
Yes.
what good happened? Oh, let me list it. And we're
Yes.
wired funny like that. So, and again, I'm sure you know way more about that than I do, but I would say to the person really frozen to think about, do you want to stay frozen, or do you want to,
Mhm.
continue forward? And if that
Right.
answer is I want to continue forward, but you don't know how, it's a lot of, it's a little bit of self-help. We've got to do a little bit of give yourself a hug,
Yes.
take a deep breath,
Yes.
and come from right here and think like,
Yes.
"Oh, what is it that I really truly want? What am I
Mhm.
passionate about? What do I love? And do more of that."
Yes, and if they've given up, and I wanna really
Oh yeah.
throw something out there to you to address, because I address it in my book, but I wanna hear your take on it, because I think I can just feel somebody out there needing it, and then you who don't believe in
And
woo
I
woo,
and I don't
you
know if
feel
I'm
the
qualified,
energy.
but I'll give it a
Yeah,
whirl.
we're both
Yeah.
empaths. We're both empaths here,
Oh, yeah.
empathic people. There's somebody out there listening who said, "Oh yeah, right. Like I've given up." I actually have heard many times in my office, I've given up even hoping. I've lost
Mm.
hope in
It
hope.
hurts.
I know it hurts. So
It
I start
hurts.
with, okay, what don't you want? And they don't know that on the opposite side of the page, I'm taking deductive reasoning right from science. I don't want to be sad. I'm writing, I do want to be happy. Affirmations. You put it in your words, how you help people who just they have totally given up and they've lost hope on hoping. And I've been
Yeah.
there and you have too, I'll bet.
I've talked to people about this too, even recently. Um, you gotta flip the script,
Mhm.
and it's a gotta, you've got to take a different action. And
Yes.
that is hard to hear, and it's surrounding yourself with maybe somebody who believes in you more than you believe in you in that moment, and
Yes.
opening your heart and mind to them, uh,
Yes.
if it's possible. It go to someone who can reach you even in the slightest, and flip the script and place your heart, your truths, and your energy within, and
Ah,
root in something. Just to
beautiful.
This is what my dad did. I mean, it was like, "This sucks." And I
Mhm.
could hear my dad going, "Oh my god, this is the worst thing ever. I'm basically blind. I'm never gonna drive again. I'm never gonna do, 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 do." And I'm sitting
Right.
there going, how are we gonna keep the faith and hope alive here? Because this is a dreadful
Some
situation.
days you can't. You
And there
embrace
are
those days.
moments. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a moment, Mary, where the heart surgeon, because he threw a clot from his
Mm,
heart, and he
yes.
was continually in AFib.
That's
And
exactly what happened to my dad. I love
yeah,
synchronicity. Look for
yeah, yeah.
synchronicities, everyone out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Find somebody who's doing something that
Yes.
find the light in somebody
Yes.
else to bring it in. But the heart surgeon gathered us all around, and mind you, there's 11 of us kids and grandkids and everybody in this waiting room, and he's like, "I don't know if I can save your dad. I have tried everything. It's up to a
Wow.
higher power. It's now up to him." And he was crying, and we're like consoling the doctor in that moment, like, "It's gonna be okay." His name
Yes.
was Dr. Erdahl. And I kept this hard for me to talk about, but he was
Yeah.
crying. The doctor was crying. He's like, "I love him. When I got to talk to him, I would love to play basketball with him. I would love to do this, and I can't save him." And we're like, "It's okay, Dr. Erdahl, we're gonna save him." And we plastered his walls with pictures and did all these things.
Oh,
And he died on us too. He had a bug in his vent, and coded and did all that stuff. So he
wow.
had his own story to tell of being resuscitated. Um, and so when things are dark and despair and hopeless and things like that, boy, cling to something.
And sometimes I will tell you, because I coded from respiratory failure. I was on the KISS tour, and the from their costumes, my lungs got burnt. And I
Mm.
can tell you that when you do that, even taking a breath is something to be thankful for. If you can breathe, there's so many people who can't, and COVID taught us that, did it not? I mean, people were going, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't breathe.
Very,
So just
yeah.
gratitude for something as simple as inhaling and exhaling. If that's all you've got, it is a tiny place to start, but that shift in gratitude really does change the chemistry in your brain.
Yeah,
It puts a little bit of norepinephrine and dopamine in there,
yeah.
which puts you to the next. It's kind of like cleaning. It's kind of like decluttering your house. You start with one drawer and then you start.
You move on.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
It opens you up and it just makes you
for
crave
change.
more. Yes. For
Yeah.
change and for
And
transition.
yeah, and I'm trying to, I was thinking of something as you were talking a little bit, but trying to listen at the same time. So probably forgot my
That's okay.
response, but no, I'll keep going. But you know, I think it's so important to just open your heart and mind and just flip and cling to
Yes.
something positive
Something.
and keep the perspective if you can, and seek help too. If you need help, I think I would add that into because some of this stuff is just chatter to people and they're like, I
Oh
need
yeah.
help actually. So seek a
Yes.
professional such as yourself or call the
Or
suicide
you.
hotline or
Yes.
well,
Yes.
yeah, and some of that stuff is too much for me. I'm not qualified in some cases. I
Mhm.
don't think I am. I might be a great friend and have some ideas, but
Mhm.
sometimes people truly need a medical intervention and
They
medical help.
do.
So
They do.
and do it because there's no stigma. And trust me, people would much rather you be here and people have more love for you than you think.
That is so true, and sometimes when people just feel completely hopeless and they wanna give up on life, and I have to deal with that
Dude,
sometimes,
yeah,
I'll go, living well is the best revenge, and if you really wanna make the people who hurt you upset, just live a great life.
yeah,
I mean, sometimes, and that little tiny amount of humor will keep them wanting to move forward. It's just the
yeah,
little tiny, tiny things. It's like it'll just make people mad if you just stay alive with the truth in you,
yeah,
you don't have to accept that I'm not good enough because that inner critic you talked about usually comes from old programming. It's
yeah.
like a virus in your hard drive or in your in your hard drive that you
You
can
can override it though. It's
you
a
can
reset button
to
with
reset.
the right tools,
Hmm.
the right the right changes, the right actions, and the right everything. You can totally hit a reset on that. There's thousands of stories, hundreds of thousands of stories
Yes.
of
And
people changing.
adversity is a catapult for creativity and action. So, the change guidebook and what you're working on now to help people move forward, if you could boil all of your, I know this is a tough question. If you could boil all your work down to one or two sentences that would just like a soundbite to get people to understand this is not toxic positivity. It's like we're not asking you,
Oh,
oh, just think positive thoughts. Oh, just say an affirmation and it'll change your life.
well, that doesn't really work. I'm sorry, but I hate to say that out loud because I know there's people who have worked based on that, but for
Yes.
me, that does not work.
No.
If I am going to lose 20 pounds, I just can't sit here and go, I hope I lose 20 pounds. It's a put the full on Doritos down and get outside and take a walk and do a lot of different things, drink a lot more water.
Yes.
It's endless with stuff like that. So yeah, no, I think the last thing I am is toxic positive.
That is the last
I'm
thing you are.
I
That's why I
think I'm
asked.
authentically almost too real sometimes. Like
No,
there's
that's
work
what I love
involved.
about your
Sorry.
work. That's what
And
I love
I'll
about it.
say that when I'm working with people, I'm like, I am not the right coach for you if you don't want to do the work
Right.
because it's going to make you work and you're going to make you work. And eventually you're not going to need me anymore. You're going to be on autopilot doing the work yourself once you get the hang
Yes.
of it. But I think what sums me up is I help people be their best in any situation. I help people
Mhm.
be their best. And I'm very into there's well-rounded success. If you're
Yes.
good in one thing, like I'll use one of our kids as an example because he's very well-rounded. Cam, he plays college baseball. He's a really good lefty pitcher. He plays for Georgetown now. He has a lot of other things
Wow.
about him. All four of our kids, they're kind of used to me talking about them. Not that they're the best things in the world or anything. To me, they are, but
Yes, they are
but
too.
it's something
Yes.
I know that I can kind of talk about and people kind of relate to because people have kids and babies and all this stuff and they're well rounded. They might have like one thing about them that they shine in, and then they have all these other interests and things like that. So I think that's really important to us as people to understand that when you're successful in one area, you can have that success in other areas. For
Mhm.
example, I think of people who have a lot of they have a lot of cash. They're really good at their job. They do this, but they can't find a successful relationship for the life of them. Well, it takes a coach or a counselor sometimes to bridge that success over to help the person be more well-rounded in
Yes.
all areas of their life and get rid of the negative programming about relationships or whatever it is that's creating that block there. Because clearly you know how to be successful in whatever area it is,
Mhm.
but you might want to branch out and be a little bit more well-rounded. So that was a long answer, but
No, it's a
I'm
great
so
answer.
into
I
well-rounded
was
success.
brainstorming with that answer
Yeah.
because there's something that people do chasing success. And because I used to be in the music business, oh my
Oh,
gosh, is it
yeah.
so brutal? I mean, I love and the entertainment industry, uh, if you notice that especially for females, they're either too fat or too skinny, but somewhere in between they were the right size and no one
Oh,
wrote about them that
love
day.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's very, very
Too
difficult.
old or too
Or they're too,
young or
yes. Oh, and one day going to
endless.
auditions when I was younger, I was too old and too young in one day, and I said, "Really?
Yeah,
How could that be?"
I've been to a lot of auditions in my life to do
Good, so you
commercials or
know.
TV anchoring or whatever it is. I have,
Yes.
that's one of the things too. As we're talking about this, what comes to mind is,
I
man,
did not know you did that, so
oh
talk
yeah,
about that. Talk
yeah,
about how
thick
that, yeah.
skin like that bear. Here's what I say. I always say two things. I say, if you're gonna go through life, you need a really good set of earplugs and a really big roll of bubble wrap endlessly because people are coming at you from everywhere
Yes,
saying things, and if you hear it and you absorb negative, oh, you're fat
yes,
or whatever word is in style these days for that, um it can really crush you and it can
yes,
really halt you and it's stop you from doing that. I
yes.
can remember when I was a news anchor thinking I had gone through college and done all this stuff and I'm a news anchor and I'm like, I hate this job.
Wow.
I went, I'm having people write in about what
Oprah
kind of,
said she hated it too because of the negative energy of the
I don't care
reporting.
what color my hair is. I'm trying to tell you something. I
Yes,
don't care how much I weigh, right? Yeah,
yes.
I'm trying to impart it frustrated me, but it also frustrated me because it was so negative. I
Mhm.
wanted to be the one who's doing what I'm doing now, saying, here, somebody had a birthday or an anniversary, or you
Yes.
go
Good
here and
news.
good, great news.
I wanna
Uh,
start a good news
yeah.
network, and no one's really, and I'm
Oh,
sure we're not the first people to have thought of it,
yeah. There
but
probably is one, but it doesn't quite
not
get the ratings.
not popular. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the ratings aren't good
Yeah.
because people are geared, neuroscientifically, I want people to listen to this and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
They're neuroscientifically geared to retain negative neural pathways for safety, kind of like you teach a kid don't touch the stove, and the first
Sure.
thing they're going to do is touch the stove when it's on, then they've learned not to do it, so then they're constantly on the scan for something that could hurt them, so it protects us, but over time it harms us because we're on the lookout for so much negativity that the fear overrides the faith.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to that person out there whose fear has absolutely overtaken them. And they're also, I'm going to add a facet to that because we all have facets and flaws. People don't really deal
Sure.
with their flaws. You got to embrace our flaws. I mean, that's how you know a gemstone's real, right?
Yeah.
They,
Yeah. It's
in
a
fact,
flaw.
when they can make gemstones now, they have to inject a flaw in it so you know it's manufactured instead of real. Embrace your flaws. Also, competition.
Mhm.
When people
Yeah.
become the best ever you, what you talked about, because we were both in a business where you can't, I mean, I used to walk in auditions and Elizabeth and I have totally different colors hair, a total different look. We do not look like sisters, but I'd see a room full of blondes going, well, I'm the
I'm
token.
toast.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm the,
Yeah.
or I'm like, they're looking for something else and that you don't know going in.
I'd see a
So I
room full
learned,
of tall people and do the
yeah,
same thing. 'Cause I'm
yeah,
5'3".
and
Yeah, I'd be like,
sometimes,
oh, I'm
yeah,
history.
I'm
Yeah.
history, but sometimes I learned to have, a soft heart and nerves of steel, kind of like what you said. But then you start competing with you and only you. That's what your work is all about, to be the best ever you, not to be better than anyone else, because you don't know what they're really looking for. You have no idea. So how can you address that person who competes instead of collaborates? Very
Well,
important. concept.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think we need both because
Mhm.
sometimes you are competing for things and Olympics or whatever it is.
Yes.
There's world-class competitions, but in all of it, in anything that you're competing against, you're still only competing against yourself. No
Yes.
matter what. It's a really frustrating thing. I write about this a lot that you are only in competition with you. And oh, does that no, no, no. Listen to me again. You are only in competition with you.
Yes.
And your world class you or your worst class you is showing up in every moment. Which one
That's
is it?
right.
Somewhere in between. And my hope is that your world class you is showing up in every moment. And it doesn't mean that you have to beat everybody else or be perfect. Just
No.
be you and be your best in those moments. And people, I have to repeat that a lot because people are like, "Oh, so you want me to be better than everybody?" I'm like, "No, no. If you know me and hang around with me, I
Right.
definitely do not ever feel like I'm the best human being. I
No.
love surrounding myself with way smarter people, you know."
Oh, yeah. And
No,
well, and
yeah, no.
we're all flawed. I mean, I'm severely flawed. I used to be a songwriter, right? And I'm a psychiatrist's daughter. Oh my goodness. I should and could write a book on that if I won't get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think what people think is nobody has flaws. You see this
Right.
perfectly Instagrammed
Mhm.
thing or this perfect, you see a famous movie star or something like that on television or wherever it is, and you think, oh, they got there, instantly overnight with no work, and they're not flawed and they're perfect human beings. And it's like, well, let me unpack that a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes. That person probably put in so much work you have no idea. I mean, I think about like just the work I've put in for doing books and things like that. I mean, I have a stack of rejection letters that is like
Don't you love
that
them?
high.
I wanted to
And I
wallpaper a bathroom with them
I
just for fun.
I snicker at them now. I mean, one of the last ones is like, "Stop writing." You know, "You need to just do something else." I'm like,
Right.
"No, I don't like you. I'm not doing that. I'm not
Right.
la 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 la, earplugs, bubble wrap, continue on,"
Exactly.
kind of thing. And, if you let people get at you like that,
Mhm.
which a lot of us do, we're not trained to deal with that. You think about
No.
middle school, somebody says something to you and you're like, "I'm crushed
Oh,
for the day." We're just not trained. We don't have the tools
no.
to understand that we're enough, we're going to be our
Mhm.
best in that moment, we're valued, and it all boils down to, I think, self-love and self-worth. I
Absolutely.
and if you can stand in your own self-love and self-worth, you may not even need the earplugs and bubble wrap. But
No,
I
you
think we
might
do
not.
on moments anyway,
Some
because
moments on fat
yeah,
and I think fatigue has a lot to do with it. There's a
sure.
lot of physiology to this, but when you were speaking, an image came to mind because those songwriter things get in my own head. But I had this image that you can literally run with on this. Secretariat was an
Mhm.
amazing horse,
Love
and
that
people who
movie.
may not remember him, he won by
Ah,
31 lengths. He was fat.
yep.
He was he was a
Ev
hot mess. He was the loser horse that she
yeah.
won in a gambling bet. She got tails, I mean, that
Everything's stacked against the win. Everything.
everything
Yeah,
wrong with this horse.
great.
And the problem with Secretariat was and he would always be in the back, drive the jockeys crazy, and then push against everybody, but he had to wear blinders because he was so competitive, he kept looking around at the other horses.
Yeah.
Address that in the context of your work.
Well, that's life right there. I mean,
Blinders.
that is so life right there because that e everything's stacked against your success.
Mhm.
Everything,
For everyone, pretty
no one's
much.
gonna be like, "Here, here, Elizabeth, let me just hand you success, and you don't have to do a thing," "Good
Right,
oh, God," "Yay."
right. Yay.
No. No,
No.
no, 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 we're working for it, and things are stacked against my
Mhm.
success, and other people are better than me, and they've done it already,
Yes.
but, if you take the blinders off and, we're competitive,
Mhm.
not you and me, I'm saying, I'll look at somebody else and go, "Oh, they're doing that, that is so cool." But
Mhm.
here's what I do, I don't go, "Oh, I don't like them. That girl,
Right.
go, "Oh, let me know you and ask you what you did are
Yes.
to do that, or ask us with an open heart instead of a
Yes.
closed heart, closed mind, negativity, competition, all these things. And, when you do that, when you seek out mentors and other people, or
Mhm.
somebody who's done what you want to do and they've done it brilliantly, and you just want a little piece of their beautiful, well-rounded success, people are so cool.
Yes, they are.
Jack Canfield's one of the coolest people
Oh,
ever.
yeah.
I can't tell you how much I bug him. How'd you
Oh,
do
well, you're
that,
so
Jack? I
lucky to
love
know
this.
him. Yeah, you're very
Yeah,
fortunate to know him.
I'm not saying I talk to him every day or anything like that,
Yeah.
but, on the occasions that I do get to interact with Jack Canfield, he departs information to you to help you be your best and be successful, and the guy's got it all.
What's one that sticks out to you the most?
In dealing with Jack,
Mhm.
or yeah, I had him on the radio with me, and I was like, public speaking is not my favorite thing. And I told him that. I'm like, I just, well, he loves it. He give him a crowd, and like, not me. I'm good. And he's like, you do it every day already,
Mhm.
you
You
know,
do.
kind of thing. And he's like, I think we need to reframe that. And he's like, I think you're good. You got it. And it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, okay. So what's the difference? One, I'm like hiding behind the computer and the camera, and the other one, there's people in front of me, and it kind of, I'm like, what am I actually afraid of? And you know what it is? It's the people's reactions. Like, I can kind of see
Yes.
kind of in tune. Like, if while I'm talking, somebody gets up and goes to the bathroom, I'd be like, wait, 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 get back here.
Right.
Why are you leaving? What did I say? And it's like a personal thing.
Mhm.
Like, am I gonna make
Blinders,
everybody
you need that's when
happy?
you do
It's
need
like,
blinders.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so in those moments of something that you're terrified of, or you kinda like that, it's that, "Okay, I'm enough. I've got something to say to
Mhm.
you. This'll help," just all of it's
Yeah.
the same thing that we've been talking about applied to myself and moments, so,
Yes, to run toward the fear. Whatever you're afraid of is something that needs to be addressed.
yeah.
And that's how you get your best ever you. I don't know of anyone who's successful at anything without a horrible adversity story. And I when
Yeah,
I want to bring up something that's so important because you
it's
coach
so
a lot of women,
goofy thing.
and
Oh,
I'm going to bring up something that may be um,
whatever.
it's very scientific,
Okay,
but I want you to address it from a coaching perspective
okay.
because we all have to take these. I can't call them boring, but we all have to take certain classes in school. And one of ours was human sexuality. And they go through, a lot of research. I was shocked to find out the reason that females have such a hard time with females as bosses or cohorts or friendships, which you and I don't have trouble with. We've grasped this somehow. It's because women, our caveman brain, our reptilian brain, women had to compete for the most protective male, which
Yeah.
is sometimes why women go after the big, strong guy. I mean, the things we're taught as children, you're supposed to have this kind of, so women will chase that bad boy because they're more protective. They appear to be more
Here to
protective,
be, yeah.
appear to be, but they're not actually. So, talk about how, because really, we really do need not a women's revolution, but a women's evolution. Women can help women so much. I love it that all the major networks are starting to do female produced work.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we all love you were in newscasting. Christiana Amanpour is a hero to me. She went out there in khakis, wrinkled shirts, no makeup, threw herself on battlefields, and she wasn't competing with anybody. She was sharing stories, trying to save lives. So,
Yeah.
how can women stop competing with women and start collaborating and embracing that we don't need to compete like this? We need to help each other.
Yeah. Maybe even just start with one instead, I do think women are scared of other women.
Mhm.
And I think we still are. I've had the good fortune, however, to have amazing female bosses. As a young person, like when I was in my 20s, one of the very first jobs I had was two female bosses, and I'm still friends with both of them today, and I'm in
Good.
my 50s. So that tells you something right there. And
Yes.
we look out for each other differently.
Yes.
I don't know how to
Yes.
politically correctly say that right,
No,
but
it's
we
true.
look out for each other differently. If you and I were in an office together and we had small kids, things would be we'd be looking out. Are you all right
Mhm.
today? How are your kids
Yes.
today? Did you make it to work all right with all four of those kids? Where are they? Are you
Yes.
here? We just are wired a little bit differently,
Yes.
especially as mothers. because we're torn in two in ways, and we're trying to be fully present here when our mind's over here thinking, are my kids all right? Are my kids all right?
Yes.
Are my kids all right? All day long.
So
So
nurture
it's a
one
pair.
another.
Yeah.
Nurture, pay
And
attention.
I think so, but I think if you can find, I'm kind of trying to think about how to answer this question a little bit.
It's a tough
Because
one.
it's there's hashtags about it all over
Oh,
Instagram,
yeah.
Twitter, women supporting women, women in business, women entrepreneurs, women friendship. It is back. It
Isn't
doesn't
it
even have
sad
to
that there
be in
even has to be
business.
these categories?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But if you think about, like, when I was a kid, and it was competition at all corners.
Mhm.
You're trying to knock
Yes,
each other over. So I
yes.
have a thing I called conscious ambition.
Ah,
And that
beautiful.
involves not trampling all over everyone to get what you want, and being very aware that there's plenty of room for us all. And
Yes.
everything that you do to help somebody else is a wonderful thing, and without even
Oh,
expecting it to come back at you. And
yes.
that's male or female, that's younger, older, whatever it is. And that approach, if you're struggling with the relationships in your life that are female to female, which we do
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yes.
People, I know women that are like, all my friends are guys. No, all my friends are women. Oh, yeah, I've got
Yes.
friends that do all sorts of different
Friends
things.
are friends, doesn't
Friends are
matter.
friends. And, I think that if we just apply the same concepts of, kindness, compassion, instead of competition, collaboration, but compassion is a huge word in all of our interpersonal
Yes.
relationships. And I think when you apply compassion to other human beings and you create that pause before you react, respond, or do anything, and just apply love and compassion to the other human being, whoever they are,
Yes.
is way more powerful. You'll have way better relationships with everyone around you.
You
And if you're
will.
one of those women out there who's like, I don't have any friends,
Mhm, and
I
there's
don't
lots
have
of
any
them.
female friends. Like, I'll sometimes look at things and go, how do they have 10 women? And they all, there was an Instagram thing the other day, and I'm like, I think that'd be so much fun. Who do I know that can do that? I'm like, "Well, I don't know." But it was a TikTok video, I think, and it was like 10 women at a spa, and they all had bathrooms on and cucumbers, and they were all had their towels on their, it's just a goofy video, but it was
Mhm.
10 women, and I'm like, that's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And you
so
help people do that. And, I'm from the generation, this will date me, but when I first heard about the Me Too movement and all this women stuff, I go, didn't my generation burn their bras so this didn't have to happen? I said, this all come I said, I'm glad it's come back to the surface, but it's just we need to just be just more open and loving and nurturing, male, female, like you said, old, young. And even, when people think, because narcissists, and I work a lot with narcissistic abuse, they think they're the smartest person in the room. And the really genuinely intelligent people know what they don't know. I sure know what I don't know. And
yeah, I
yeah,
don't know a
because
lot.
life coaching, every time I learn something, I learn I don't know even that much more.
That Yeah, that lifelong learning is so important to keep
Yes.
your mind open and your heart open and everything like that. But I'll go back, kind of what you're saying. I think I heard is that, I think as women we still go through different things,
Mhm.
and especially with the whole Me Too movement and things like that, we are treated differently. I will say, and I've just experienced it in my life. So I've been treated differently as a woman in the
Yes.
workplace. I don't know about you or anybody
Oh,
else.
yeah. I mean,
My personal
and
stories, I've got some doozies.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some really interesting stories. I have not really ever shared any of them public, but I know my work history and I know what's happened to me at work.
Oh,
And I
yes,
think,
and we were in the
wow.
entertainment industry, so I can share this because I don't think anybody it wouldn't hurt
Oh,
anyone's feelings. In Nashville, there were when I sang there were singers
yeah.
and there were girl singers, not female singers. There were
Yeah.
singers, which were automatically understood to be males, and there were girl
Oh,
singers.
that's what you're saying, huh?
Like
Oh, that's
like,
interesting.
okay, there's singers and there's girl
Girl
singers, and I
singer.
remember inquiring about this when I got there because I'm a child of help me figure this out. And I was like, wow, okay, I've just stepped into a time warp and I'm going to either have to, like you said, I'm going to have to adjust to the system because the system will not adjust to
Uh,
me.
yeah,
You have
that
to
there's a
face
lot
it.
of that, and I think we're becoming more and more powerful to adjust that system. But
Yeah.
it never dawned on me, and like what Pat Benatar went through.
Oh, it's awful.
I love Pat Benatar,
I
and I
do
remember
too.
being a kid going, "Yeah, hit me with your best shot," or whatever it is,
Right.
thinking, "This woman's on fire," she's on MTV. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking as a kid, "What's she going through?"
Oh, it's bad.
Never dawned on me at all, but in her she talks about things now,
Mhm.
I never thought you see all these famous people, and you as
Yes,
a kid, but what's cool about them is they did it,
they
and
did
as
it.
a young female, I remember saying, "Wow, if she can do that, I can do that." And granted, I can't sing or anything like that, but I had a lot of that. If she can do it, I can do it. If she can
Mhm.
do it, I can do it. And we broke through so many barriers, and we continue to do that. I think that if she can do it, I can do it is a really powerful
It's gonna be the
message.
title of this podcast. If she can
Yeah,
do
"You
it,
can do
I
it,
can
I
do
can
it,
do it." And
and together even
yeah,
better, best ever
yeah,
you.
and
Yeah.
that's I mean, I think that's what we need. And
We're doing it right here. We're telling
yeah,
women, "Get
be
along, y'all."
mindful
Yes.
of people of all ages who
Yeah.
are looking at what you're doing. People will
Mhm.
write me personally, this is a common email I get that I'm really proud of. "How did you write books? Can you help me?" Common. The people will tweet, "How'd you do
What
that?
do
How'd
you
you
tell
do
them? I just tell
that?"
them, "Put your pen on a piece of paper
I
and
actually
just
don't
start writing."
I sometimes I wanna say that, but I elaborate. I'm like, "Let's set up a meeting, and let me talk to you for 20 minutes about it so I can hear what you're thinking." And I'll tell them about self-publishing versus traditional publishing or hybrid. And, definitely the pen on paper, start writing, all those things. But, if I can do it, you certainly can do it. If
Yes.
that's something you wanna do is write a book, I think there are things where I'm not gonna be able to do that. And
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be able to sing like Taylor Swift. That is just not in my wheelhouse. So
Either.
some type of practical, acceptance of,
Yes.
our
Of your
talents and so
limitations.
forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Of your
But so
limitations, parameters.
but I'm gonna piggyback on that too.
Mhm.
Sometimes people see limitations in you to your success that you definitely need to ignore.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
I would, I can't say that enough. If you see something in you that is, you got it, you're doing, all day long, I'm going to be doing this. You might have to just sidestep and ignore and bubble wrap
Yes.
hugs all the naysayers because they haven't done it, and you can see
No.
yourself doing it. But the thing of it is if you can't see yourself doing it, nobody else can see it either.
So true. That's where the emotions do come into play. If you can
Yeah,
feel yourself doing it, even better.
you
It's
can
better.
see it.
Visualization is great, but feeling the visualization is yet even better, like a meditative mind hack. It is a mind hack to envision something and then feel the emotions and hang on. That's what actors do. Sense memory. You studied
Yeah.
that kind of thing, that sense memory. You're carrying a feeling into a character, and that's how you become a character. And if you want to be the best ever you, as you talk about, that's how you do it. You carry it into that.
Yeah, and
Oh,
sometimes you
wow.
gotta set that vision and be able to see it in order to achieve it. You've
Yes.
really got to see yourself already doing it to be able
Yes.
to achieve it, and then comes in all the action too, because you can't just see yourself doing it and then be like, "Oh, I see myself doing that."
Exactly.
It's all the action and work that has to play in too. But if you can't see it for yourself, I guarantee you no one else can see it
True.
either.
Now we'll take another facet of that subject because I know there's somebody out there still going, bunch of hooey, hope they're still listening. But
Yes,
I
that's
want to
awesome.
positively reframe a limitation. I always say, you just can't be a prima ballerina at age 85. However, you could work at a ballet company. I mean, there are limitations. What I love about limitations, I don't look at them as limitations. I look at them as rule outs. Okay, well, I don't have to waste time on that. Kind of like the friendships. You don't need 20 friends. You need 2 to 3 close ones to be healthy. And acquaintances are where you actually get jobs from, people who know people who know people. That networking is a safety net that works.
Yeah,
So, but those 1 or 2 close people. So if you say don't have any friends, you probably do reach out to, you only need 1 or 2 to be healthy, the ones you can just be yourself with.
yeah.
So, talk about any closing thoughts, anything you'd like to open up, because I want people to look at limitations they may perceive, and they might be real limitations to say, okay, that's something I can rule out. Like, I'm terrible at math. I will never be an accountant. I took a
Yeah.
job one time as a real estate appraiser, which is really hard to do. And I said, why am I doing this? I hate it. I didn't just dislike it. I detested it, but it was something I had to do as an interim profession until I could get this license. And I learned what I didn't want.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's,
there's a
yes,
couple,
your limitations are actually liberating when you know what you don't want.
sometimes, yeah, yeah, when you know what you don't want. However, I just add a little twist
I
to that.
want
I
to,
love
that's
the
what I,
twist
yeah.
because if you see a limitation and it's hard for you, like let's say you just still want to be an accountant, Mary, like math is not my shtick, but boy, I just really want to do that. I want to be an accountant. So go for it. If you really want to do it, just understand it might be more work.
Mhm.
It might be more time, energy, whatever. You might have to get help, mentor, whatever it is. You can still do things. Once you say there aren't 85-year-old prima ballerinas, there's going to be now.
I hope
I'm
so. That's
sorry,
why I threw it.
but
Oh no, I threw it out
I
there. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want us
Yeah.
to like burst through the
Yeah.
barriers.
Yes.
I mean, I really do. I think I have one son who people are like, nope, 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 and he's done it, done it, done it, done it, done it.
Hmm.
And so be careful of all those nopes and no's and things like that, because if
Oh
you've got
yeah.
that yes in your head, I'm going to do this, you are only as good as you think you are.
That's true. I'm going to throw out one last thing, and I want you to have the last word after you hear it. When I was becoming a songwriter, I went through all the publishing companies and, saying the rejection things. "Oh, why did you bother me with this piece of what song?" And I said, I got plenty more where those came from. I did
Yeah.
have nerves of steel. So finally, I got so tired of the pat answers that you're supposed to say. So I went to a publisher. It was my first publishing job I ever got too. He said, "So why do you want to be a writer?" And I didn't even care anymore. I had given up on, like I was in my 20s. I just didn't, I was almost 30. I didn't care. And I said, "Do you want the real answer or like the pat answer?" He goes, "No, I want the real one." And I said, "Well, if you hate everything I write, I can't stop doing it. I can't not write. So I don't care if you hate everything I write. I can't stop doing it. I'm going to do it anyway." And he
Yeah.
said, "Hired." He didn't even hear one of my songs. So
Yep.
that whole story there was to tell people to be themselves.
Yeah.
It was when I was authentic and had surrendered, not given up, but surrendered. Address that for your best ever you, because a lot of that's in your book, the assess and to choose and take action.
Yeah. Do it for you. I think is what you're saying. If you do think, if you're operating authentically in what you want to do, that's where the success rests, because it's
Mhm.
ultimately your smile. I really feel like success rests with your smile.
Yes.
And probably we could leave on that, because
Yes.
that's it. That's what it is. It's
Yes.
your
Oh, thank
smile.
you. Yep. And so, and smiling just releases dopamine, even if you don't feel like it. Yeah, a plastic surgeon said, "I can take away your smile lines." And I went, "I earned every one of those. You are not touching them. No way."
Yeah.
They are years and years of smiling because I really had to push through things and smile my way through it.
Um,
And thank you, Elizabeth.
Botox here.
Yes, and this the Change Guidebook, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. You're on Amazon. How do people find you? What's your website address so they can find you?
besteveryou.com. That's you.com. There's a free gift for everybody too. If you go to besteveryou.com/change guidebook, there's a free gift that goes with the book. And it's an assessment that I take every year on my birthday myself. So I was like, okay, I'll just put that up for the public. And I find it pretty helpful. And so far, people are finding it pretty helpful too. But it takes you
Yes.
through all the different areas of your life, so you can take action.
It is helpful. It helps people address their facets and their flaws and be authentic. So
Yeah.
thank you again, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to chat with you.
And everybody just check out her work because I assign it to a lot of my clients, and I tell them the homework is not for my benefit, it's for yours. It's not even homework. It's like home play. It's like playing with ideas that you never thought you could do before. So her work is amazing, and I encourage you all to access it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.